Interesting. All right. You guys may begin. It's interesting.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Jolly J, and I want to welcome you to Earth. We need to recycle, all right? We have to in order to save our planet. If we don't, what's going to happen? This is the only Earth we have. You know, we're all connected, and really, we kind of always recycle, like with the economy or with that stuff that happens with plants and animals when you eat the animals and they come back around like the circle of life on Lion King. All right, we have to recycle. But what is recycling? Recycling is basically the conversion of waste into usable material. Kind of like taking a tree and making this table, or maybe a notebook and making a pencil. If we don't recycle, we're just gonna have too much trash. Has anyone ever seen Clyde with the Chance of Meatballs? Awesome movie. In that movie, basically food falls from the sky, and the food that they don't eat, they throw it onto a hill until eventually the dam breaks and almost destroys the whole town. If we don't recycle, we're gonna end up in that same situation. Recycling also reduces overall energy use, which is always a good thing. The reason for recycling is basically to keep our planet looking beautiful and fresh and look at the happy butterflies. To keep it from that, from looking like this. And this is really the track that we're running on. By reducing the waste, waste basically contributes to the pollution of our air and water. I don't know about you guys, but I really need air and I really need water. Does anybody else use air or water? You don't use air or water, sir? Special. Special. We need those things. And by recycling, we can save our air and our water. Trash and chemicals in the ocean basically harm everything in there. And because the animals don't know the difference between trash and food, they'll eat the trash. We catch the fish. We eat the fish that ate the trash. So we're basically consuming the same thing that they eat. Pretty scary. We have to recycle. Reuse, reduce, recycle. So energy conservation has to be right next to waste reduction. The energy that is required to recycle materials is way less than the energy used to make the very thing that it's trying to make. Like the energy used to create a steel can from raw materials takes about 95% more energy than to reuse a can that we already had. Recent U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Energy studies suggest that energy recycling could provide 40% of the U.S. electricity. That's almost half, okay? Twice what we now get from nuclear power. That means the power that we need, we already have. Global warming, by reducing those uses of energy, we can stop polluting our air and causing global warming. Look at this polar bear. The polar bear is saying help. They're not scientists. And look at this one way back here. Look at the polar bear. I just believe that each and every one of us have to take responsibility and help this recycling tree grow. We have to do our part. We can't change the world tomorrow, but we can start today. Look how happy this lady is when recycling. If you're not happy, try recycling. You might feel better. The question is, which I've already touched on, is why we should recycle. But who better to really tell you the details of why we should recycle than my bro, Tom Tom. Come tell him how to recycle. Why we should recycle.
you are wondering why, there's lots of different reasons why recycling is important. Recycling has many environmental benefits. Recycling saves energy, conserves natural resources, and it limits pollution. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And supports several sectors of the economy. One of the first things we're going to touch base on is landfills. The United States produces approximately 220 million tons of garbage each year, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. This is the equivalent to 82,000 football fields being buried in 6 feet deep of compacted garbage. Landfill sites are taxed, and there are fines for exceeding limits of disposal at one time in many regions. So when they say fines for exceeding limits in regions, such costs are passed on to, guess who? The taxpayer. Because ultimately that's going to just show up, they'll increase city council taxes or taxes, so ultimately now recycling comes out of your pocket, so why not? Recycling minimizes additional landfill costs to a great extent, so that's going to help everyone. Another important issue about recycling is carbon dioxide. Recycling prevented 85.1 million tons of material from being disposed of in 2010. That's up from 15 million tons in 1980. Recycling has grown a lot. This presented the release of approximately 186 million metric tons of carbon dioxide into the air in 2010. That's the equivalent of taking 36 million cars off the road. Now, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and it is the main pollutant that is warming the Earth. It's a very large contributor to global warming. We just keep putting more and more into the atmosphere, and it's just changing the chemical balance of it and just messing it up. Aluminum. 1 ton of recycled aluminum saves 40 barrels of crude oil and 10 cubic yards of landfill space. So every aluminum can really does count. Recycling 10 tons of aluminum saves as much greenhouse gas emissions as preserving more than 11 acres from deforestation. Aluminum cans and scrap are recycled into new products like airplanes, cars, soda cans. And you guys wouldn't believe it, but recycling 1 aluminum beverage can saves enough energy to run a 100-watt bulb for 20 hours, a computer for 3 hours, and a TV for 2 hours. Just off of 1 can. 1 can. How many guys drink 2, 3 cans a day? Nobody drinks any sodas in here? Nobody? Okay. I guess that was the wrong question. Okay. Glass. 1 ton of recycled glass saves 5 gallons of oil, 7.5 pounds of air pollutants from being released, and cubic yards of landfill space. Glass is 100% recyclable. Over 30% of the raw material used in glass production comes from recycled. It comes from recycled glass. It's a lot easier to make glass from recycled because crushed glass, it melts easier. It requires 30% more energy than producing it from crushed glass if you make it new. The energy saved from recycling 1 glass bottle is enough to light up a 100-watt bulb for 4 hours. So I guess everybody in here drinks out of glasses at some point, right? Okay, I know you don't drink out of aluminum, you're going to drink out of glass, right? You're going to drink out of one of these things, no matter what. Recycling 10 tons of glass saves much greenhouse gas emissions, preventing the use of more than 8 barrels of crude oil. So just make sure you're done with your glass, put it in the recycle. Done with aluminum, put it in the recycle. These are the reasons why you want to do it. It's helping save energy. It's helping you. It's helping put less in your garbage can. You're going to save on garbage bags. Paper. Paper is like one of the biggest things that I feel is like an issue today in the United States. 1 ton of recycled newsprint saves 71 gallons of oil, 60 pounds of air pollutants from being released, and 7,000 gallons of water, and 4.6 cubic yards of landfill space. That's just for 1 ton. 1 ton of recycled office paper. We're talking about newsprint and office paper. We're going to make sure that there's a distinction between the two. 1 ton of recycled paper would provide enough energy to power the average American home for 6 months. 6 months, that's half a year. That's a long time. About 10 million tons of newsprint is thrown away each here in the United States. That's 10 million tons. And if 1 ton powers the American home for 6 months, just imagine, around 4.5 million tons of office paper is thrown away each year in the United States. That's enough to build a 12-foot high wall from Los Angeles to New York City. A 12-foot high wall of paper. Annually, each person in the United States uses about 2 pine trees, 2 to 4, I would say, depending upon. And what newsprint is recycling in the newspapers, egg cartons, cereal boxes, acoustical ceiling tiles, lots of different things. Here's a big one, plastic bottles. Everybody is like really into this thing of drinking plastic bottles, and that's fine. Because as long as you recycle it and you reuse it. Because plastic requires 1 to 400 years to break down in the landfill. And we talked earlier about how we need to reduce the size of the landfill so the taxes don't go up, right? Enough plastic bottles are thrown away each year in the United States to circle the earth 4 times. 4 times. Recycling 10 tons of the PET plastic, which is safe plastic, some of you guys know about that, is like the equivalent of removing 3 cars from the road per year. 1 ton of recycled plastic saves 30 cubic yards of landfill space and about 16.3 gallons of oil. So next, we're going to talk about why. Ultimately, why? Is because it's going to reduce your air pollutants that's contributing to global warming, which is carbon dioxide. You guys know what that is now. It's a greenhouse gas. It also reduces air and water pollution associated with making new products from raw materials. So you're going to definitely not want to do that. Recycling also creates jobs, positively impacts landfills, which helps taxes. It helps many different areas of the economy. The guy that's taking the recycling, we're going to pay him. That's going to create a job. It's going to help the landfill. That's going to keep our taxes where they need to be. Ultimately, it keeps everything moving effectively. They say approximately 60% of our trash that we put in our recycling bin is recycled. So remember that. Always think twice. Recycling saves trees. There are more than 20 million trees cut down every year for paper goods. We can cut back on that number. That's a lot of trees. Who wouldn't want to recycle? So I don't think the question is why we need to recycle. I think the question is why not? So now we're going to talk about when you need to recycle. And who better to tell you than my bro, Cody.
So as you guys know, there are obvious benefits of recycling. But when should we begin recycling? As crazy as that sounds, and maybe not as obvious as it is, we're actually already late, as our friend here from Alice in Wonderland is showing us. The ancient Chinese proverb goes, however, the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best day is today. Therefore, right now is the best time to begin recycling, because we are not speaking of planting a tree. We are speaking of beginning to recycle more effectively. One thing that we all speak of recycling and we can see the benefits, we hear the numbers. However, something in our minds just doesn't seem to click with the realization that this is the truth. We do need to recycle. We need to keep our world clean. If you see trash, pick it up and make the world a cleaner place. Obviously, though, do not throw the trash in a trash can. Locate the appropriate recycling bins and dispose of it in the appropriate manner. Open your eyes. We can make a difference, and each of us must make a difference in order for the world to be a brighter place for generations to come. The world is a beautiful place. This earth that we live on is very rare in the universe that we're all a part of. I would love for it to be around for time to come, for generations to come, and there's no world for our children to live in. It's disastrous. I would like my lineage to live on because the most basic instinct is survive. Now let me toss this over to my girl Flower Power to tell you how to begin recycling.
Hi guys, are we excited and hyped up about recycling? Good. So, we think and we go back and we think like, how do I recycle? How do I start my daily, routine off recycling to become a good Samaritan? Pretty easy. You contact your local waste management. And they will deliver your bins. You request them, they deliver your bins. And you gotta realize, well, what do I put in my bins? You got a couple of them. Aluminum. All aluminum cans, tins, steel. You can even put foil in there if it's washed and cleaned up. You can put like your cans, just make sure everything's mixed up. That's really important as part of, getting that together. Cardboard, milk and juice cartons, those are good. Paper towels, the rolls, those are excellent to put in there. Corrugated boxes, it's like flattened down. Glass bottles and jars. They like it to be clear and color bottles, but drinking glasses, ceramics, and cookware, they're not allowed into the recycling bins. Just because it's glass doesn't mean it's acceptable. What about our paper? We have newspapers, magazines, catalogs, bills. You can put your shredded bills in there, telephone books, office paper. Those are good things to put in there. They don't like loose plastic paper in there, so if you use loose, try not to put it in there. It's not acceptable. What about plastic bottles? The rule is the top should be smaller than the base, and they want you to keep your lids and your pumps on the bottles. So your shampoo, conditioner bottles, soda liters, make sure you keep your pumps, your lids on there, and cleaning supplies. Question. I want to see who's been paying attention. We're going to play a little game. Is everyone up for that? Okay. Does this go in your recycling bin? What about glue? What do you think? Pesticides?
No.
Not quick enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have to leave?
What about Jessica? Pool supplies. They go in our recycling bin. You're not quick enough. You got me. My neighbor over there, not having it. What about syringes? No. Very good. What about like those things that are like glass and you put like green stuff in it? Even though it's natural, does it go in our recycling bin? No, very good, very good. So I see you guys are just following along and paying attention. Very good. These, all that's right here, are hazards, and they're not allowed in our recycling bin. It's hazardous for our water. Antifreeze, motor oil, pesticides, all that kind of stuff. Syringes, those little pipe thingies, don't go in our recycling bins. Okay. So what if you have like extra like catalogs, magazines sitting around your house and you're like, well, what do I do with them? You call this, you write to these people right here and they will help you go paperless. So it's sort of all your junk. Pinterest has some really cool ideas if you're crafty. I'm not the crafty type, but I did go on here and I saw some really cool ideas. You can make like storage bins and bookshelves and little things in your house. I'm like this Pinterest document and how to recycle. So for more information on recycling and how to, these are some good little programs to contact. BrevardCounty.us and Harris Waste Management. They have great info on their websites and they're pretty fantastic. That's where I got this information from. So guys, before you throw out that Mountain Dew bottle or your Coke cans, try to be a good Samaritan. Run to your recycling bin, deposit your stuff in there. We only have one Earth, and it's our home right now. We should take care of it. So remember the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, because that's all we have. So I'm going to bring back Jeremiah, my righteous brother, and he's going to fill you guys in on all the little things.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Say it with me. Reduce, reuse, recycle. One more time now. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Man, you guys catch on so fast. What are you gonna do with that bottle when you're finished? Oh, what are you gonna do with that cup when you're finished? Awesome. I was gonna, ask you to use it because they're actually good for your listen for aliens. Cut out the bottom, they're out there. We have to do our part. It's not about just America. It's not about just Jamaica. It's not about just Germany. Each of us, we all live on the same planet. That means we can take our power, our resources, take it over to China or take it over to Australia, and let's get together, mate. So, as we go off in this vast universe of life and all types of stuff, this is where we live, Earth. The beautiful, the significant, the exclusive, very particular Earth, planet that we can live on. It's so beautiful. We have to do our part and keep it that way. Sure, we can't help that there might be ugly people, but it's the Earth that we okay? It's a beautiful thing. We have to bind together. Come on up here, my brothers and sisters. We have to bind together, hand in hand. If you would, grab your brother and sister's hand. All right? And say it with me. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. One more time. Reduce, reuse, recycle. All right.
He's been outside for a while. Emerson, you've been outside?
Yeah, that was a beautiful half of a PowerPoint.
It's not even PowerPoint, it's Prezi. You guys are like 3 minutes short of the minimum.
Oh, no, get back
That's
up.
because we weren't finished yet. I never finished the cycle. But there's always time to recycle. There's always time. I hope that camera's running. I'm talking to you.
Actually,
I'm talking to
yes.
every one of you. Even when you think that we're finished recycling. Because even tomorrow, you might wake up and say, man, that was a cool presentation. And then the next day, you say, hey, remember that presentation they had a tree? And then the day after that, you're like, man, I remember they did good, but what did they talk about? It's important to remember to recycle. We all have to step it up and make it a daily routine. How many of you brush your teeth? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Okay? I got kind of all of you, but that's okay.
Kind of all of us.
Kind of all of you. You brush your teeth, add that to your list of things to do. When you wake up, all right, brush my teeth, wash my face, sometimes at number 2, and when you're finished, all right, you go have breakfast, maybe you're out and you have to go get a Starbucks. After you grab that Starbucks, all right, throw it in the trash, right? And then you keep going. No one's stopping. No one's stopping. It goes in the recycling bin. Sure. Maybe there aren't recycling bins everywhere. Maybe it's hard to find them. Keep it until you find one. All right? Or maybe find another use for it, like I said. This thing is real. So I want you to take it with you after the next 2 minutes, after the next 3 minutes, after the next 4 minutes, and then after the next 5 minutes, and after the next 6 minutes, and after the next 7 minutes. I want you to remember to recycle. Remember to recycle.
Stop him.
Remember. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Right together with me, brothers and sisters, as we truly get reduce, reuse, recycle. Everybody, reduce, reuse, recycle.
25 minutes and 7 seconds.
What is that?
25 minutes.